Hello everybody, welcome again to the kitchen. Today I'm going to be doing a video on tomato sauce. I'm about to make some lasagna, and the first step for me is making the tomato sauce. I don't like to use the stuff in a jar. It's okay, but I feel that it's probably cheaper and I can customize my own sauce a little bit better just by making my own, and it's really not too difficult. And when I talk to other people about making tomato sauce, they seem to think that it's kind of a black magic or too difficult for them or something like that. And I really don't understand that, because this is really one of the easiest things you can make, I think. It's even easier than soup or whatever. It's literally, you know, one or two ingredients. So anyway, what we have in front of us, a couple of the main ingredients. I have some hot Italian sausage I took out of the freezer. You could also use sweet Italian sausage or hamburger, or obviously nothing at all if you don't want to add any meat to it. I'm going to add an onion or two, some garlic, and I have some canned tomatoes. These are diced tomatoes. I like to get a variety of them when I'm in the store. They sometimes come pre-flavored. This is Italian style. I don't even know what's in it, but it's kind of pre-seasoned a little bit. Now, some of the purists might say that this isn't making it from scratch or making it by hand or making it homemade, because you're using canned tomatoes. But I don't know, whether you grow them on the vine or whether you buy the tomato or whether you buy the tomato already in a can, I don't think it's much different, because you're still making the sauce. So I'm going to start by cutting up the sausage, browning that in my pot, then slice up the onion and the garlic, throw that in, and then once that is pretty much done, then I'm going to add my tomatoes. Now that the onions and sausage are simmering in the pot, I'm going to prepare the tomatoes. Now this is a lot easier if you have a submersible blender, and if you don't know what those are, if you don't have one, buy one. They are awesome. Unfortunately, since I just moved here not too long ago, I'm still short on a couple gadgets, and that's one of them. Luckily, at least I have a Cuisinart. This is a nice new Cuisinart my mother gave me, and it'll work okay. It's just a little bit more tedious, kind of a pain in the ass. But anyway, I'm going to put the tomatoes in, blend them up, and put them into a stainless steel pot. I'm just going to do one can at a time so I don't overload anything here. And that's about all you need to do. Okay, now we're ready to spice up the tomato puree that we just made with the blender. First thing, this is just me being a little bit frugal, I guess, but when I'm done dumping the tomatoes out of the can, I fill it with a little bit of water, and you can just swish it around, and that lets you get every last bit of tomato out of there, and you can pour that in. And you don't have to worry about it watering down the tomato sauce too much, because firstly, it's not a lot of water. You might end up adding more water anyway to thin it out, and also in my case, I'm making lasagna, so I want a lot of water in the sauce, because the pasta, the lasagna pasta, is going to soak up a lot of water, and the water is going to help the pasta cook. So now I just pretty much raided my cabinet, and I took out all the spices and herbs that I thought would go well in tomato sauce. Now, for those of you guys and gals out there that don't cook that much and your spice drawer pretty much consists of salt and pepper, go out to the grocery store next time you're there and just grab some stuff. And it really helps to go for these containers. They're store brand. This is a Big Y brand. Whatever local chain you have, they're bound to have containers, probably something like this. They're a lot cheaper. See, this big container of cumin was only $4, but if you went and bought a McCormick spice jar of cumin, which is even smaller than these, you'd probably still pay $5 or $6. So these are good deals. Keep your eye out for those, and just pick up a bunch of stuff, and it's good to have. They don't really go bad. But anyway, that being said, I have cumin, thyme, Italian seasoning, red pepper flakes, celery seed. You could also use celery salt, but I just have some plain salt here to add. Another side note, notice it's not in a salt shaker. I'm tired of salt always getting clogged in the holes of a salt shaker, and it never comes out anyway. So you just keep it in a little bowl like this, or if you want you could find a bowl with a lid. if you're nervous about dust or something getting in it. And then you just pinch the salt right out. We have dill weed, oregano, rosemary, and some black pepper. And you put it in just to taste. Don't go overboard, of course. Just do a little bit at a time if you're unsure. And also remember that when the sauce cooks, the flavors will come out on their own. Just putting it in cold and tasting it is going to be a somewhat accurate representation, but you really won't get a good idea of what it tastes like until after it's cooked. Now, the last ingredient, I've saved the best, what I think is the best for last. It's kind of my secret weapon for tomato sauce, but it's not so secret because a lot of other people know about it. Brown sugar. You would never expect to put brown sugar into tomato sauce, but it is excellent. The sweetness of the sugar kind of acts the same way that salt does. It brings flavor out in the same way salt does, except it's not salty. And it gives a little nice sweet hint to the flavor, but not... Obviously you can't add too much, then it just is going to be sweet. And the brown sugar, rather than white sugar, the brown sugar is just I don't know, I just think it's a better flavor. So a couple tablespoons of brown sugar will be just right. Okay, so the time has come to pour the sauce into the pan with the sausage and onions in it. Now, a little side note, if you happen to have accidentally burnt the bottom of the pan a little bit, that's okay. Because what you can do is something called deglazing. And I can't show you because I've been simmering this really low and there's no burnt stuff on the bottom of the pan. But in the case that you do have some burnt sausage or whatever in the bottom of the pan, either take the sausage out and the onions out temporarily or just kind of push them off to the side. Turn your stove up relatively hot and wait till you can tell that the stove's getting pretty hot. Maybe it's the pan is smoking a little bit. Don't overdo it, but just wait till it just starts to get hot. And then take your sauce and dump it right in. And it'll sizzle and steam and everything. Then right away start stirring it and kind of scraping the bottom. And what that'll do is once the liquid of the sauce hits that hot bottom of the pan, it lifts all that burnt crispy bits off the pan, which has a lot of flavor in it. It cleans the bottom of the pan and it incorporates all of those bits and pieces that were on the bottom of the pan, and it'll just really make your sauce even better. But since that's not the case for me today, I'm just going to go ahead and pour this in. You just give it a good stir around. You might want to turn the heat up a little bit temporarily just to get heat into the sauce, because of course the tomatoes were room temperature, so you got to give it a little bit of heat to get it simmering. But you don't want it to boil, just let it bubble away, and the longer you let it simmer, really the better it's going to be. The only consideration is making sure that the sauce isn't too thick or too thin. So if it's a little thick, add some water, some chicken stock, maybe some beef stock, I don't know. I usually just add water or chicken stock and it comes out fine if it's too thick. Or if it's too thin, just leave the lid off, let it simmer for a while, make sure to keep stirring it so you don't burn the bottom, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And after it's simmered for a while, then you could taste it and get a really accurate idea of what it's going to taste like, because everything is simmered together and the flavors have mingled. And then from that point you can adjust the amount of spices and herbs you put in, which is why it's important, especially when you are making your first batch or two of this, if you're unfamiliar with it, put in less rather than more spices, because you can always add more, but you can't add less. Well, that was going to be the last of the video, but I figured since I'm making lasagna, I might as well show you how to put lasagna together for those of you who haven't made it yourself. So first off, the ingredients that I'll be adding is the tomato sauce, of course, lasagna, noodles, grated cheese, ricotta cheese, and mozzarella cheese. It's basically just a cheese pie. That's what lasagna is. And it is delicious. So, start off with the noodles. Got to kind of adjust them to fit, like so. Just one layer. And then I'll add a layer of tomato sauce. And you just layer everything in. I'm going to put in some ricotta. Just spoon it evenly throughout. Proportion is the key. You want to make sure you have enough of everything so you don't run out of one ingredient before another, but I tend to get pretty lucky. I don't know why. Parmesan and then some mozzarella. I like to keep a lookout for mozzarella cheese and ricotta cheese on sale. Buy it, put it in the freezer, and then a day or two before I make lasagna, whenever I decide that I want it, I'll just pull it out of the freezer, put it in the fridge, and by then it'll be defrosted and I can cut it up and scoop it out and use it as normal. And that way you save money. So who doesn't like saving money, huh? Don't be afraid to make the lasagna a little too wet with the sauce, because like I said, that pasta is going to soak it up. And also, your first night, like when I cook this tonight, it's going to be a little soggy, I'll be honest. When I cut a piece out, it's not really going to stay in a square shape. And maybe even the noodles might be a little bit al dente. But the day after, and the day after that, and after that, when I heat it up for dinner and lunch the next day, it's going to be perfect. Because over time, those noodles soak up even more. Well, here they are, all set and ready to go into the oven. As you see, I ran out of space here and I had to use a bread pan to fill up with the rest of the ingredients, but it turned out okay. It'll be just right. And also an added benefit is that this, being smaller, is going to cook a lot faster. So when this is done, I can pull it out and eat it for dinner tonight, while this continues to cook in the oven for leftovers for lunch and dinner the following nights. So I have the oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to put these in. I'm going to start at 30 minutes. It's probably going to take 40, 45 minutes or more, but we'll start at 30, then I'll check this one and we'll go from there. Okay, the small one is all ready. That looks good. The big one is still cooking a little bit. I just took a fork and poked through it, and I can poke through the lasagna noodles pretty easily on this one, but they're still kind of leathery on the larger pan of lasagna. So I'm going to let that one cook for probably another 10 or 15 minutes. But here I'm going to let this cool down and I'm going to dig in. Oh, it's time to dig in. You can see how most of the juice is gone, or most of the sauce. It all got soaked up. Oh, another side note, these lasagna noodles I'm using, they are not the special no boil kind. They're just regular old lasagna noodles, and you don't need to pre-boil them to soften them. You just put them in, and the simmering tomato sauce does its thing and cooks the noodles. But anyway, there is our masterpiece. Let's give this a try here. See, this bite needs a piece of sausage. Let's just fork this over right there. Still nice and steaming hot, probably going to burn my mouth. That is perfect. I am satisfied. I haven't had lasagna in quite some time. And this is just another good batch. Nice little kick too. I like I like the spicy sausage, the hot Italian sausage. Gives a little bit of kick. Now you can see this actually looks pretty dry on the inside. There's really not that much sauce. But this is because this is the leftover. I didn't really have enough sauce to do this. The other main batch should be okay. If the main batch was like this, it's okay tonight, but in the next day or two this is going to dry out so much it's going to be like there's no tomato sauce at all. So sometimes it would be nice if you have a big batch to have a little extra tomato sauce to put in on the second day or so. Remember, you always got to take the second bite to make sure it's as good as the first. And it definitely is. Well, I'm going to go sit down and enjoy this. Thanks again for watching and spending some time in the kitchen with me. Hope you guys enjoy this, and make sure to give me the thumbs up if you like this. If you want to see more of these, let me know. Leave a comment. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'm sure you know the spiel by now. So thanks for watching, and as always, come back for more. And I think I'm going to come back for more of this after I'm done with this plate.